السلام
Well,
عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يا هلا ومرحبا ارحبوا، حياكم الله، أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا، مليون ارحبوا ارحبوا ارحبوا، حياكم الله، هلا ومرحبا، هلا والله، هلا هلا هلا.
welcome to another episode of the Dark and Dower. I'm your
No,
host, Adam
it is a
Fitzgerald.
special episode.
This is a very special episode to begin with. I'm with my co-host, Richard Cox. Richard, it's been a while.
Good to be back, and good to be back for the special episode.
Yeah, and with us today, to me, is a very special guy, a special episode of the Dark and Dower. Somebody I've been trying to contact for a while, Mansoor Adayfi. Adayfi, you were born in Sana'a, Yemen, held without charge in the United States Guantanamo detention camps in Cuba from February 9, 2002 to July 11, 2016. On July 11, 2016, you and a Tajikist captor were transferred to Serbia. His Guantanamo internment serial number is 441. Al-Adayfi came to prominence in 2022 when he alleged that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis oversaw beatings and force feedings at detainees at Guantanamo. Currently, you live in Belgrade, Serbia, where you write, you create artwork, you advocate for prisoner detainee rights, and you wrote a book, which is your memoirs at the time, Don't Forget Us Here, which was published in 2021 by Hatchet Books. Mansoor, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here today, and welcome all our beloved viewers, listeners, even the people who don't like me. I like you guys, no worries. No hard feelings.
I always keep,
for,
yeah, cool, yeah.
Thank you for the introduction. I am Mansoor Adayfi, 441, Smiley Troublemaker. You can call me those names, okay? I love those names. Yeah.
You had a lot of nicknames in the camp too. We're going to get to that in a minute. But I always like to keep it simple and like to tell a story behind the story. And you were actually born in Sana'a, Yemen, and you grew up very poor. And you were born in the village of Rama. So what was it like growing up in these early periods?
You know, when you're born in those kind of mountain village, it was my world, you know. A just small village. I could see other villages, and growing up like jumping around like hyperactive person, work on the farms with my parents. My father is a tribe elder, so there's like more discipline, more restrictions, more and so on, because our family stressed us to be the face of the family, of the tribe. I was very curious. I was a little, you know, a little troublemaker in a way. Just like it's my personality. I was like a kind kid, but at the same time, very, very curious. And that sometimes to lead me into a lot of troubles. So, yeah. And when I grew up in a village where we have no amenity, you know, like structure, no running water, no electricity, nothing. It just, you know, when the dark came, we have those lanterns, and 1-2 hours after we sleep, wake up early in the morning, we're preparing for school. My mother would wake up really early to prepare, to have to the oven, and she used the wood to prepare the breakfast, tea or coffee, and some butter. And after that, we go to school. Sometimes I would go to school without shoes because it would get lost. And I don't want to be late for school, because every day I would walk around like 8 miles back and forth, you know, at least just every day to those kids who was like, my father, my mom, take me to school. Guys, walk. You need to walk, guys. It's healthy. So sometime when I got back from school, I would like go through my classes, and because my father used to tell me, you know, I'm not talking about you'll pass. I'm talking you'll be the first one. So always I need to be the first. So like there is no question about passing. The only thing, and also it's becoming the family, my brothers and my sisters. So it will also compete between my brothers and sisters who will be the first this time. So we're always between the first, the second, the third, and so on. So yeah, if you get the second, the third, they're like, oh, you didn't do well. So
your mother named you Mansoor, which means he was victorious.
Yeah, my name.
Yeah, you were smarter than other kids your age. Tell us more about that.
So, yeah, my mother actually the one who raised us, because my father always would travel to Saudi Arabia so he can support the family, because we had a farm, but the farms divided the loan with my father and his brother, so it would support the family anymore. My mother also, her father was also the elder of the tribe, because that happened, elder tribes get like married to each other. And she also brought well, and like Misri, we spent most of the time with my mother, she's a fine woman.
So you grew up in poor conditions, but you met the sheikh at the Islamic Institute in Sana'a, who once told you that he needed your help, that he needed you to go to Afghanistan, and that when it was complete, you would be given a visa and a letter of reference, as well as money to go to the United Arab Emirates. Can you elaborate further on what he wanted you to do over there?
When we finished my secondary school, we didn't have high school in the village. So people would when we finish, we go to study in other places, other cities. So I had, and my aunt, she lives in Sana'a, the capital. So my mother said, well, now you are a man now. So I'm like, ever since I know myself, you are a man, you are a man, you are a man. So, and when I went to the city, it was a different experience. Like, wow, this is the city, huh? It was like opening a new door to the new world, like experience light, buildings, cars, streets, signs. I couldn't sleep the first night. The morning I went to everywhere, to the shops, talking to the people, very curious. And some of them knew, like, they said, tribal guide. I said, yeah, it's new here. They said, yeah. There's like a tall building, like 25 floors. That's the tallest building in Yemen. And I went there. It was like built of covered with glass, and I was like, "How this is possible?" Like, So I went there. Then the police stopped me. They said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Yes, I need to see. I need to talk to the people." It was a different world. The way people talk, the cars. It just, So then I started my school, and I learned a lot. So when I finished my high school, part-time I studied in this institute and work at the same time, start working there, learning and studying in they are very good with the Arabic language, and I love the language. So there was a student from different parts of the world, and I work as like assistant for student affair, where like student came with their visas, passport, and I created a lot of people who knows at the airport, at the immigration, and so on. So by the end of 1990s, there was the rise of Al-Qaeda and Taliban, and there were like many people asking question about Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and you couldn't find any research or a book, or that time they used cassettes, and those cassettes started. Osama bin Laden, like audio cassettes, start spreading in Yemen at that time. So Saudi government, actually the one who was funded the institute, and the Yemeni government too. Like it was legit. And the Sheikh was invited to, after the USS Cole and after the attack in Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, and Saudi Arabia, they wanted someone who could write a book about the new rise of Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and so on. And the Sheikh said, okay, I'm going to write a book, to encounter and dismantle this kind of new ideology and so on. And one of his students, he was appointed to go to do the research, permission from the Yemen government, Yemen intelligence, and they need just assistant. They need someone who can, with him there, carry the bag and do stuff and so on. And for almost like a year and a half, I was bugging the head of the institute. I said, hey, I need to go to study the United Arab Emirates, because he used to give recommendation. I've got scholarship. And he said, okay. He didn't want to give me, basically, because I have no, I have no big value. So then he told me one day, okay, help me, I will help you. He said, I need to go with this guy. And I said, yeah, I would love to. I mean, this is a door for me. And plus, I will be able to travel for the first time. One of the beautiful things in the sea is Sana'a City. I used to go to the airport just just to look at the airplane. You know, there is a story too. When in the village, the first time I saw the car, you know, the first time, like, we have like once a week market, all villages gathered and go to the place called a market. We call it the souk. And my father said, "Hey, you are a man now. We are going to get to take you to see the souk." I said, "Well, excited." So I got in our donkey because we didn't have cars. We have only donkeys because I never saw a car. Anyway, so on the way to the market, when close to the market, because I was in the donkey, my father was with others behind me. So I was close to the market there. I saw something really big and something coming fast. Father, Bob, like, what's like something is here. And I jump off the donkey and I start taking rocks, start listening, like throwing at that beast. Really like, wanna stop. Then a guy came out of that beast with the long button and he said, "Yeah, he's like cursing." So I went to high ground. He said, like, "Calm down." I said, "No, I'm trying to help you guys." Like a metallic beast. And he was cursing, yelling. He came at me. So I started throwing rocks at him. I said, "Wallahi, if you come, I'm going to hit you in the head." "Who is your father? Name your father." I said, "I'm not telling you nothing." Our father came. He said, "What's going on?" He said, "Your son broke the glass of the car," because this is my first time to see a car. I was like, beast, you know, like my mother always told me, like, there is like some beasts in our area, hyenas, but you know, it's not like a donkey, basically, like an animal. But that one it's I never saw a car in my life. It was scary, it was big, and like there's people inside, and I wanted to help. Throw a rock, I broke the glass. So the guy was so mad, and you know, my father cried. Then my father like, "Calm down. You have to apologize." That guy told me, "Okay, throw the rock." I had him. I said, "No, you throw the, you know, the stick you have." So, and my father told him, you know, like, this is his first time to see a car, and the guy was nice. He said, "Okay, come here." I was a little like, you know, nervous. He said, "This is a car, and you know, and we drive it." Like, okay. I was like looking, people inside, everyone laughed at me. So, and I never stopped talking about the car, a car, a car, a car. I went, and I told my father, "We need a car." So
You know,
when I
it's
get
funny.
to the city, I already know about the airplane now from school, but I never saw the actual one. So I used to, the best place I used to go to the airport. So whenever I get chance, I'll be buying food, a walk sometimes, you know, and go there, watch the people, watch the airplane, so on. Like I'll be able to travel. So yeah.
What
So
an
I
ex I
was,
mean, it is an experience to be in a big city outside of like where you grew up. Must have been a different world.
yeah, it's a different world. Like the first time I arrived at Sana'a, it was almost night, and I saw a lot of flights and you know a lot of cars. I was like, and my brother was explaining to me. I was like, glued to the window, looking, and I see moving people, cars, signs. You know, it's kind of like when I went to the electricity to my aunt's house, I started going to the laundry machine, going to the TV, going like everywhere. I was like, "What's going? Who is that?" She said, "Who is this? Like Jinny came from? Like he just." Like I couldn't even control myself, asking questions, turning things up and down, you know.
Unbelievable.
So when the sheikh wants, they need just someone who would help, you know. I said, "Okay, I have no problem." We get recommendation from Yemeni government to the Yemen embassy in Pakistan, to everything like we're going there, so can they help us? So basically, our job was research, to go there, to collect as many information about the group or the ideology, to collect materials, to talk to some people, to interview them. It's like he want to try to book, and he want to try to book based on fact, based on real knowledge, you know, what's going on there. And this guy, he was really smart. And that guy who went there, he already visited Afghanistan before. So I was just his assistant. So this is my story. I was only 18 years old. I was, you know, for me, it's okay. 1 month, 2 months, I will get back. Then I'll be traveling to finish I wanted to finish my college education, study IT, and I have like dreams. So that was my trip to Afghanistan. And from there, when you arrive to Afghanistan, you feel like you are moving through time to the middle centuries. How the people behave, how the people like well dressed. The only thing connect you to the modern life, the motor cars, the motorcycle and the cars. Other than this, like the houses, the people clothing, and it's just, and also the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. You can see scars that they destroyed machines in Kabul. Almost every building have a wound or have like bullets and so on. So it was like a different experience. And the first time I get to the airplane, I fought with the flight attendant. He asked me to put the flight seat. I said, no, I'm not a cow to tie myself. I said, Mansoor, this is for you. I said, I don't care. I'm not doing it. I'm like, oh, this is the first time. Because like they call us tribalmen, like we are kind of like, we didn't accept things easily. Like, why I should tie myself? Someone tell me if the airplane, something happened. I said, if something happens, then I cannot survive anyway. So I recorded a video about my trip to Oslo just last month. And I talk about my first flight, and this one my second flight in my life. So in between like 22 years.
And this is right after 9/11 too. And this is when the United States became heavily involved in looking for bin Laden and Al Qaeda and the Taliban.
No, I went before 9/11. I went in June. I left.
Yeah. Oh, you went to June of 2001. But it was like shortly afterwards, the United States became involved with Afghanistan again.
Yeah, I mean, but in Afghanistan, we didn't know what happened. We had no idea that 9/11 happened because when we arrived in Afghanistan, there was nothing connected to the outside world. No TVs, no phones, absolutely nothing. And I mean, we didn't need the phone. Just we have a mission to finish and so on. And our point of contact in Afghanistan was a Saudi charity organization. And that's the way how we. One day we were in the restaurant after 9/11 and we heard that there was an attack on the United States, and like they said terrorist attack, but we didn't pay much attention to it because we are not connected to anything. Then when we get back to the location of the charity, they said, hey, the head of the charity said, hey, we have instruction to liquidate everything and leave. Later on, 10 years later in Guantanamo, I came to know that the charity organization was actually a Saudi intelligence firm. Anyway, like connecting the dots. Yeah. Anyway, so he said he got instruction from Saudi Arabia to leave, and he's leaving, and he said, you have to leave too. So at that time, I have come to befriend one of the guys who works there, and they start liquidating everything. They have a lot of medicine, dates, blankets, clothing, and the money. They have a lot of things. And they told one of them, said, Mansoor, hey, would like to help. I said, yeah, I'm more than happy. What should I do? He said, just accompany me. We start putting stuff for medicine, like logistic stuff, And that's what he said, okay, we're going to go to this city. And after that, take the car and drive to Pakistan and sell the car and so on. And we were ambushed in the way, and the rest of the story.
Well, yeah, the United States were dropping leaflets for rewards for bin Laden and Al Qaeda fighters and Taliban fighters. And
so after 9/11, the CIA start working with the North Alliance, and the people start buying people loyalties. And also the U.S. airplanes start throwing leaflets, offering a large bounty of money if anyone would submit terrorists, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, whatsoever. And it could change your life, 5,000, 10,000, depend on the person you bring. The higher the rank, the more pay you got. So we were kidnapped, one of the warlord, and another warlord came and took us as guests. Then we were handed to the CIA. So one of the things that in the car, I was driving the car. So because I just got my driving license, I'm like, hey, I need to drive. I had like a white turbine, and the white turbine, white turban, and the white turban in Afghanistan at that time were only by the Taliban high ranks, Mawlawi, Mullah, and so on. And there was also a radio, big radio, like people how they communicate. There is no cell phones. And they said this guy is a Qaeda commander. He's white turban, car, a radio, and there's a medicine. There was some stuff. So I was sold to the CIA as Al Qaeda commander. And
you think they really believe that, the Northern Alliance? Did they really believe you were an Al Qaeda commander, or was it just a case of?
So, but when they saw me with you saw you think with simple-minded people when they saw you like in the white turban that you are someone, because the white turban weren't only by Taliban commanders and leaders. So I tried to blend in. So at that time, like I didn't know. Then my friend told me, yes, the white turban, the head, regular Afghanis don't wear it. Only you can see you are, like those kind mullahs or Mawlawi or like high ranks. So from there, also the payment, the higher the payment, the higher the rank you told them, the more money you got. And from the CIA, they were looking for someone. His name is Adil, Egyptian. And I was taken to the black site, the worst period ever. So they started, it's hard to go through it again. It's just one of the worst and darkest period in my life. So from there, I was called Adil from Egyptian, Al-Qaeda commander, and money laundering, traveling, involved in Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, a lot. I admit to every single one of them. The problem was with the details I didn't have. And I couldn't make any details. 3 months, I faced death many times. There was no limitation. And there was other people who might die there because all of a sudden they just silence. After 3 months, I couldn't even walk. Someone came, an old man, he came, he took the hood of my look at me, and he was talking a little, and like, la, 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 la. After that, I was shipped to Kandahar prison and spent there around like 3 weeks. And from there to the unknown, to Guantanamo, where I spent around 15 years. So this was the journey to Guantanamo. I mean, we could talk for hours and hours about just the journey to Guantanamo, the airplane, the process station, the treatment. So when they come to deport me to Guantanamo, we didn't know when Kandahar prison, I was kept in a hangar because I got altercation with the guards. Then they moved me to, they have, we call it a hangar, where a makeshift place, dark. There's like bright lights, 2 towers. In the middle, there was like cells, not cells. It was like there was a barbed wires, and there was like they used to tie us in a pool as like punishment. There was no walls, nothing, only barbed wires, like a circle, and they put in the middle. And when they take us, they just, it's like on top of each other. So when they come to take us, they just remove the barbed wire and took us to interrogation. So we like shackled 24/7. So when they come to drag me to the airplane to Guantanamo, they took us to something, the process station, where they like tents. They tie us like that stand, and they start shaving our bodies. It's a lot of humiliation, and female guards twerking, moving their asses, making fun of our genitals. It's just a lot. I spat on them and get a lot of beating. They put duct tape over my mouth, and they would also sign around my neck, beat me with big letters. Then they put me in orange jumpsuit. Then they dragged me to an airplane, set me on the floor, then spent around 40 hours. Until we arrived at Guantanamo. When we arrived at Guantanamo, again, the process station, we arrived there. They dragged us. First we arrived, then the Marines came to take us to Marines to a ferry, then to a bus. The bus went on the ferry, like I filled the sea. I wrote an article in the New York Times called "On Our Prison on the Sea" in 2017. Then from there, when we arrived, they forced us to sit on our knees for hours. I personally I couldn't, because I always like lay on the floor. They beat you like on your knees, shouting, yelling, and I like hooded, shackled, gagged. I mean, I wish I died. I like many times. Oh Allah, please take my soul. I cannot take it any longer. And I was taken to. That was also like one of the things. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know what's going to happen to you. And I was so young, and I like, okay, they're going to kill me now. They're going to kill us now. So, one of the things that happened on the airplane, a prisoner, he needed to use the toilet, and he was yelling, and most of us just did it like this. And he was calling the guards, hey, toilet. So what they did, we heard someone in the airplane saying, hey, brothers, prepare, say your prayers, they're going to throw us from the airplane. Imagine, in the middle of the way, and someone, hey, prepare, they're going to throw us from the airplane, from the gate. Oh Allah, really scary voice, Oh, Ya Rabbi, this is the moment. When we arrived at Guantanamo, it's like, who that brother said that? He said, one of them said, yeah, I am. What they did, the guard took him, put him in the bucket, and they turned on the fan, and he thought they opened the gate of the airplane. And I was like, just, we will never forget that, because we thought, okay, the moment. And his voice was really, really scared, like, hey, brothers, prepare for death. They're going to throw us. Say your prayers, yallah. Imagine like you're being hooded, earmuffs, and you're like, what? And you are waiting when your turn, like every second. So any touch, the guards used to be like every 10 because I have a sign, and every time someone touches me, okay, I am next. Mm-hmm. I left that moment until we arrived. So the process station where they made us to sit on our knees for hours and hours, then they would come drag you and start cutting your cloth. You see just scissors and violently, and there's like a shield on you. And still you are hooded. You didn't see nothing. I felt like there is a hose of water, like pressure of the water, then brooms, then soap, like, did you see the brooms you clean the floor, the large one? They used those brooms to give us a shower like that. And they were like, turn around, and like, and after that, they took us, and like, I don't want to talk about that. They did anal search. It was like, also the way they did it, it just so humiliated over. They keep repeat over. Do you like it? Do you want more? So I fought with them. I was beating too. So they dragged me to my cage. They took the fingerprint. They took the hood, like took a photo, put it back immediately. Then I was dragged to the cage again with the FC team. So they threw me there, sat on one of them, like put his knee on my neck, and the rest. They want to send you a message, like, they want to, it's like to me scare you or whatever. So they threw me in the cage. I was like, they removed everything, the hood, the duct tape. I was like just naked there, looking at myself, like, and I saw people like sitting like this with an orange jumpsuit, and the guards shouting, "No talk, look down, no stand. You cannot stand. When there's a new group arrives, no stand, no talking, no looking. All the prisoners have to sit, look down like this, sit, and no turn. You cannot turn. You cannot do nothing." I was just looking, and the guard was talking to me, and I didn't care. I need to cover my ass, basically. So I started putting like the orange suit to wear, and it was like two buckets. At the beginning, I didn't know what's for, There was one, I need to drink water, and my neighbor, Danish guy's like, brother, just sit, they will beat you. I said, why? I was like, shut up, shut the fuck up. So I was like, why? So they opened the door and they can just beat me, right? So I was like, why? Or like, what? I was like asking questions, why that happened? So this, like, when I arrived there, when they finished putting everything in cages, now people can have, but no talking. You cannot talk. You can look at the guards. You can't. So I was like, try to talk to each other, like pretending that we're not talking. And what's this place? Nobody, no, nothing. I said, there is a sea. I need to pray. What is the direction to Mecca? Like, we had no idea where we were. Like, bright light, and you can see nothing. So yeah, sorry. You can ask a question. I just.
No, it seemed that the object of all of this is to make sure that you never concentrate on one issue. You don't know where you're going, you don't know where you are, you don't know who you're with, you don't know what's going to happen to you next. And this is physical, it's primarily psychological torture, which is what the essence of Guantanamo actually was, besides the physical torture that happened.
Yeah, they keep you disoriented that way. So, and also they like drive you to the no sleep, no eat, no nothing. And the group after us, when they arrived, you go straight to the interrogation. And after they give you a shower, and they intentionally humiliate people in the search. It's like rape, and that it's like a wound. It's like something for us it's like, and many prisoners would deny that nobody wants to talk about it, nobody to think about. It's like one of the worst thing, and it happened over and over again. So you go to the interrogation, people don't know what they were talking about, what they say. Just you totally like
Bless you.
Thank you. Basically, you didn't know what you were saying. Like, yes, you need to get this over. You need to sleep, you need to eat, because you cannot even keep yourself together. So it was like part of the interrogation process and program there. So then when you arrived at Guantanamo, at the beginning was camp X-ray. And there was no rules. Different teams of interrogation, CIA, FBI, military intelligence, Homeland Security. Who's these guys? DIA, just everyone like what they want. What some of them treat you good, some of them like treat you, some of them beat you. And Guantanamo kept until that way, until in the end of 2002. And this is what the fun began. Like the real shit started when General Jeffrey Miller arrived. So when he arrived, there was also some kind of conflict between the intelligence agencies. And so what he did, he unified them and he created what they called Guantanamo Task Force. And he's the one who wrote the Guantanamo SOP, Standard Operation Procedure. Like, and he started developing the interrogation technique or the torture technique. So basically, he was the camp commander, and there was the base commander and the South Command commander. What he did, he skipped all the chain of command, and he created a channel communicating directly with George W. Bush and Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney.
Right.
And so what he did, so the interrogation when Rumsfeld issued the memo of torture, he was started developing that in Guantanamo. And during his time in Guantanamo, he went to Iraq before he was deployed there. He went to visit. I remember the first night he arrived there, all of us, almost all of us get beaten. And then he started the interrogation again, the torture, the sleep deprivation, the waterboarding, and you name it. So until end of 2004, I think. Then he went to Iraq to get metized. So yeah, do you know, Jeffrey, one of the worst periods in Guantanamo?
You just answered the question, Mike, because I was going to ask you about Jeffrey Miller, because he was the general of the intelligence and detention at Guantanamo.
Yeah, even one of his victims, not just us, there was like also two. James C. Chaplin was West Point graduate, Army captain, came to Guantanamo as a chaplain. When he opposed the torture and the desecration of the religion, he was accused of espionage, aiding the enemy. And again, he was put in orange jumpsuit, he was arrested, and he was also classified as enemy combatant. So also there's another Ahmed al-Halabi, Syrian interpreter. He was also, I think, Air Force major or something. He was arrested, the same thing, alongside James Yee. I think he copied some materials for the prisoners and called like espionage. Actually, there was stuff in the books, and he copied them because helping James Yee. It just, when people like didn't like what General Jeffrey Miller was doing, and he viewed them as obstacles, get rid of them. Accused of espionage, aiding the enemy. It just total chaos.
And Miller believed you were either an Egyptian recruiter or an Al-Qaeda general, right? And then, if I understand correctly, the fact that you didn't give details led them to believe that you'd been trained in counter-interrogation techniques, which led them to then try and interrogate you harder, and so on and so on. Is that?
We were trained by Al-Qaeda to encounter interrogation technique. So, and then now they have to come with something, encounter interrogation technique. They used to tell me that you train well, they are going to break you at some points, and so on. And they also talked to other prisoners about me, showed them photos, and like, who's this guy? He's an Egyptian. And some of the prisoners, actually, they said, one of them said he saw me in the North Alliance. Some of them said they saw me in Tora Bora. One of them told them he saw me in Tora Bora. I said, hey guys, just one of me, chose one place. They said you were assigned by Osama bin Laden to coordinate the withdrawal from the 55th Brigade. And in Tora Bora, they said, someone said, yeah, he was, in contact direct with Osama bin Laden, how to lead the battle. I said, wow. So basically, it was a big mess, even from the interrogation. They brought people to Guantanamo. They have no profile, no photos, no names, nothing. The mission, the CIA mission and the army to bring people there, and they're going to sort the files. But it was a big mess. When you arrived at Guantanamo, also George W. Bush and his administration, they wanted to assure people we won the war on terror. So we brought the bad people. They put us in orange jumpsuit, and those the worst of the worst terrorists on the planet, vicious killers. So even the guards, when the first time they arrived to Guantanamo, you can see they're very nervous, afraid. Later on, when they come to live with us, because we become part of each other's life, they said, guys, they told us you are killers, you are terrorists. They told us if you just overlook, you would, in a matter of split of a second, you will break our necks. I said, okay, can you teach us how? So crazy, So because the guards get conflicted, because if you tell them, hey, those guys, terrorists, killers, blah, blah, and so on, but when someone live with you, serve you your food, watch you eat, drink, shit, sleep, fight, pray, just talk, the fact does not match what they were told. And some of them end up to become victims, because some of them, they didn't want to abuse the prisoner. They didn't want to get on the torture. And they said, guys, we are sorry. This is not who we are. And some of them actually get demoted, some of them punished. We were not just the only victims. There were also guards and camp staff who tried to stand for their humanity, who tried to stand for what they believe in. They would get punished. They would get demoted, got punished. Some of them were actually kicked from Guantanamo. Yeah. prisoners were one of the only victims because Guantanamo, it contradicts our humanity. And those people, there is heroes from those guards, nurses, camp staff. They were heroes, they're like nobody told about their stories, and I tried to shed light on that. There was a victim just like us.
When you're in these, because they sent you all over the place, kept moving you around, but you had a core group there from reading the book, and there was one individual that you actually were very close to, and I want you to talk about him a little bit. Wada al-Hamashi.
Yeah, we form a group called the Red Eyes. I mean, the Red Eyes is like Yemeni name for people who has integrity, courage, people who care for others, and so on. It's not like bad people. Just you said this guy's a red eye. I mean, like he's a man with his words. So when the abuse started in the camps, people deal it differently. Some people just the measures is just not to do nothing because jail was enough for them. Just too much. It was too much. Some of us mostly came from tribal background. It's our nature. I cannot accept that. And also it hurt me more when I saw other get hurt. So we start just reacting, We were just reacting to whatever they threw at us. So they move up to solitary confinement. And we met again with those people and we started, hey, we need to do something. It took us like months and months, to years sometimes, people to join, people to organize. And it wasn't, when I say organize, it's not in the way you organize, it just, we understand each other. So Wadah was, I think he was with the Taliban. And he told them, look, he said, yeah, I was with the Taliban. And he told them, I'm not hiding that. I have nothing to be afraid of. If you think I did something wrong, try me, And they like him because guard and camp staff, they also like him. He was very, very straight, very honest, very fair person, kind of a personality. Is a rare personality. If any one of the prisoners would just insult the guards, he said, no, you cannot do that. We still have to respect each other, treat each other fairly. In 2009, he died in the BTU, and there was some kind of negotiation with his family. I don't know, but he told me the American would negotiate with his family. There was something I couldn't understand really. And he told me that he will get released soon because there was some kind of negotiation. Wadah became like one of the leaders. He was like sacrificing a lot. And it didn't because he was a fighter or was with Taliban and so on. No, it was as a person, which is like as a human being, regardless. You are, regardless of who you are, guard, a detainee, it just, we stick to our humanity. But in Guantanamo, the majority of the prisoners I found there, and they have no connection to Taliban or Qaeda whatsoever. There was, students, teachers, charity workers. You have people who were sold by their own neighbors to get their lands. People who, they brought people from different parts. You have 50 nationalities, more than 20 languages spoken. People brought from different parts of the world, from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, from Bosnia, from Mauritania, from United Arab Emirates, from Saudi, from Yemen, from Africa. So different stories, different. So Wadah become a leader, try to organize, try to protest, try to stop. We all try to do our parts. Sometimes they will take us, shift us from block to block, from camp to camp. And we try just to react, stop the torture, try to, but that's what they want you. They want you to react. SOB keeps changing, guards keep changing, everything keeps changing. And interrogation never stopped. Interrogate teams after teams after team, question after questions, and then they never stopped. They were also psychologists were part supervised the interrogation, and they keep developing, they keep learning, they keep modifying whatever they were doing.
there's a point, and I found this probably the most chilling part, or one of the most chilling parts of the book, was when you meet a chief interrogator who acknowledges to you he knows that you're not involved in Al-Qaeda. He knows you're not a Egyptian recruiter. And he knows because you're clearly not Egyptian and you're far too young to be that person. So he really knows that. And this must be incredibly uplifting, only to have any uplift dashed because he doesn't care. And because he has to report back to Washington, and he offers to essentially treat you better and give money to your family if you'll work for him and inform on the other inmates. Could you speak to that part, please? That was just really poor. I don't doubt a lot of the interrogators came in with this belief that you were the most dangerous man in the world and they had to crack you. But when you have someone, it's almost like in that very famous book, Dostoevsky, on the Inquisitor, where the Inquisitor knows his victim is actually Jesus, but he carries on with the torture anyway because it can't threaten his institution, and the fact that you're innocent can't be allowed to get in the way of Washington, what Washington DC requires, and all the rest.
As interrogators, you cannot say this an innocent man because there is a huge responsibility. So basically, even there in some of the interrogators, even if not everyone, I believe not everyone was bad, but even those, they won't put themselves to say, well, this guy is an innocent and so on, because that will put them in some question. Imagine, I told you those James C. and Ahmed al-Halabi were in prison accused of espionage and classified as enemy combatant. Those men was members of the U.S. Military. One of them actually was a major, the other was a captain. The head of the CIA at that time in Guantanamo, he called me and he said, today it's your day, special. I'm going to meet you only once. So I was okay. And they took me to a special room and I sat there and he started, I need to work for me. There's a lot of people we didn't know nothing about. We need help. And I was like, honest with him. I said, look, I cannot do that. I said, well, you didn't to be munafiq, a hypocrite? I said, no. Okay. He said, okay, where is Al-Qaeda? Where's Allahu Akbar? Where's Bin Laden? Where's Hayya al-Jihad? I said, it's not my job. He said, what should I tell the White House and the Congress? We have only teachers, students, charity workers. Where is those people? I said, it's not my job. He said, okay. He had like a copy of the Quran, like start reading, and he was speaking broken Arabic too. So, and I told him like, I have done nothing. He said, I know, but there is always war. I swear, word by word. I remember those until now. He said, there are always victims in war. Consider yourself one of them. I'm like, that was really, when someone knows that's who you are, I looked at him. He stood, he put his Holy Quran in his bag. Sure. He stood up, looking at me, went to the door, and he said, Nik nafsak, like, fuck yourself in Arabic. I just threw my head between my knees, like, I cried, It just, someone knows who you are and just considers you as a victim. It's so cruel until that day. Those, you say you might beat you, torture you, they might something, but that person told you, I know. But they didn't care. They didn't care. Everyone come grab your file. Again, okay, that person, I'm going. It wasn't about the truth. It wasn't, Guantanamo wasn't never been about the truth or about, Guantanamo has another mission totally. It turned into be an experimenting lab on prisoners first, also to be a propaganda of war and terror. We detain those bad guys. And because if you are going to launch one of the biggest military campaigns in US history, your people will ask you, where are the bad people? They need to see something. And Guantanamo, one of the most secretive prisons in the world. Why? Because there's something wrong there. until that day. Until that day. Secretive, almost expensive. Until that day, and like, because there's something wrong. They don't want you to know the truth about Guantanamo. I just yesterday, 3 days ago, when the Showtime canceled the interview with Vice about the Guantanamo candidate, about Ron DeSantis.
No.
So I'm writing an article about it. In like, the truth must be told, you know, and many people who were Guantanamo knew that prisoners have no connection whatsoever. You can talk to all the lawyers. So that was really hard, and that was there really early, and they never stopped the interrogation, the accusation, and so on. I can share one of the photos. I'll try to share it with you, and like how the interrogation changed. You know, in 2002, when I arrived at Guantanamo, they said he's Al-Qaeda commander and 9/11 insider. In 2016, they said uncleared if he actually joined Al-Qaeda. So I had to fight with the PRP to tell them either say he's Al-Qaeda or he's not Al-Qaeda. Wallahi, they said, we cannot just simply say we detain an innocent man for 15 years. We need to say something in my face. So yeah, I'll share the photo with the Miami Herald. It was reported done by Kay Rosenberg.
Oh yes, yeah, New York Times.
Yeah, no, at that time she was working for the Miami Herald.
Miami Herald.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah.
She's a prolific reporter out of Guantanamo as of late.
Can you see the middleman there?
Yes. Yes.
Can you read?
No, I can't read.
I will try to send it to you. I didn't have your contact, or
I
will try to share it to send it to
I'm actually going to put my number in the chat.
So just to show how they didn't care. They know. Just I send it to your
my email.
No.
Twitter?
Yes.
Okay.
Just when you click on it and you see how they shift the narrative. At the beginning, I mean, like Al-Qaeda commander, 9/11 insider. Do you know what does it mean, 9/11 insider? Someone who,
right.
Then after that, they don't want to say he said Al-Qaeda, and they have interrogated tens of thousands, tortured tens of thousands people. And I said, and my own government, the head of Yemen intelligence, came to Guantanamo in the room with the interrogators. He said, we know Mansoor. He has no connection whatsoever. But yet, it's not about the truth. The truth is the first victim. It's just about their own truth. Imagine, like, after 15 years, unclear. Doesn't make, they said, you know, we cannot say we detain an innocent man for 15 years. So basically, yeah. So between 2002 until 2010, we call it the dark age, until 2010. So between 2002 until 2010, we call it the dark age. Torture, abuse, hunger strike, death, and you name it. Then when Obama was elected, we had hope when he said he's going to close Guantanamo. When he failed to close the detention, they relaxed the rules and it became the golden age. They didn't change the rules. They just relaxed the rules. We went to negotiation with them about the living condition, about the, you know, the life and the communal living, and we got mostly what we asked. We got family phone calls, we got video, we got TVs, newspaper, classes, art class, English class. We got video games, we got DVD players, we got books, movies, and so on. We got, you know, refrigerators, microwaves, better food, better health care, and so on. And that lasts until 2013, when John Kelly, you know, he's the South commander. The army took over from the Navy in 2012. He didn't like the situation. And again, they sent us to the dark age again. And John Kerry is, he was the chief of staff of Trump after that, when he was presidency. And he was against, also he was against the closure of Guantanamo. Like Ron DeSantis. DeSantis, we met him in 2006. Habibi Roni, he seems here.
Yes.
I did this when he was, when the Vice News journalist asked him about me in Jerusalem conference, and he got upset. So I sent him a message like, calm down, my friend. We are friends. So,
yeah.
Like,
you know, one thing about your book is that one constant that I saw, besides the torture, was that, well, as you said in the book too, nothing makes sense here. And so with that, I always wanted to ask, how did you manage to stay sane? So you wrote about certain things about Guantanamo, the simpler things in life that many people neglect. You wrote about the sea. You wrote about iguanas coming to your cage. And I like to explain about how, did this give you a short reprieve of the insanity, which was a welcome to you?
I mean, yes, because when you arrived at Guantanamo, we had no shared life with each other.
Mm.
Like, literally, you arrived, you became just a number.
Mm.
So, and you know nothing about, also, you know why you were there and for how long and what would happen to you. Just nothing. So everything, it just, I don't know how to explain it to you. It was like that feeling. There was also language barriers with others. There is doubt who is who. And so time we started, you know, interacting with each other. But also the more, but what makes you as a person, as a human being, as an individual, unique human being, are our memories, knowledge, experiences, relationship, emotions, our you know, our names. That part of, it's like, I call it our second DNA, your knowledge and so on, because if someone take your memories, it will show knowledge. So that's what we brought with us to Guantanamo, and that I couldn't take. So that helped us to survive. I wrote an article, if you Google it, called The Beautiful Guantanamo. I just extracted the worst things and how we managed to survive at Guantanamo. We had each other as, you know, the hardship and the difficulties, the torture forged really strong brotherhood and friendship. And especially seeing those iguanas there, like a princess, no, the guards, if someone like beat you and torture abuse you can see that animal came like a princess, and when she walks, the guards has to give away. Mm-hmm. We come to know later that it's like a protected species, and the guard has, if anyone hurts the iguana, has to be 10,000. I'll go to 10 years in prison. And we said, the guard, I challenge you just to think to hurt the iguana. So it become also like, you find, you know, when someone took everything from you, but they think they did, but still seeing the light, the beautiful sky, you know, those animals, the sea, it was amazing. It was, you know, one of the best moments at Guantanamo, because everything is taken from you, and those things came and filled that vacuum within you.
Can I add to Adam's question, please, and ask you, one thing that comes across very strongly in the book is the role that your religious faith played. And even in the scene I described a minute ago of the interrogator offering you all sorts of riches, it's a striking contrast between his concern of angering Washington, D.C., and that's the most important thing to him. But you describe inwardly, I don't know, would you call it praying at the time, of calling out to Allah for guidance in that moment? And that's consistent throughout the book with you and the other inmates there. That I was also struck by the way, whenever you would have a list of demands, for the guards to stop desecrating the Quran was always on the list. And that's really striking, because I think if I was in that situation, my concerns were very much about, I don't know if I'd have that kind of strength of faith in anything to put that kind of demand on a list. I'd want, the other things like the phone calls and the torture to stop and all the rest. But this sense of religious faith, it comes across very strongly, and particularly at a time when Islam was being demonized across the world, and because the attacks were seen as a purely Islamic event and a rising out of fundamentalism. So the book really touched me in that way, of how you could lean into that Islamic faith for strength there. Could you describe that a bit, please?
Families and faith become part of our life, not our religion. Not in a way people think like those Muslim extremists, wherever. I mean, those things we only hear in the news, and we heard the interrogation rooms, basically. So, and people get the wrong idea and concept. So religion, especially when you become in those situations, so I think that situation also brought us. Also, when you're living under attack, someone, because it's part of you, someone desecrates your religion, like you use it as a Muslim and your religion, you need to know more. So some of us like, okay, we need to know more, like what's going on here. We stick more to our religion, but also to defend our religion, that was going on there. Because even like when I remember one of the guards took the Bible, because they used to give us the Bible too in the library, and he tried to show us that he doesn't care. We splashed him, said like, you cannot do it in front of us, because for us still the Bible one of the holy books. So yeah, and as much we respect it as much as we respect the Holy Quran. So, but for us, at that when our religion was used a way of the torture in the interrogation room, compromising, that it was used to torture the prisoners, to provoke us all the time. So, of course, the only thing we need to defend that. You would stop doing this. It was done systematically, it just to pressure you. But also at the same time, they want to know how would you react. If also it was also like, it was based on their judgment. How do you react? If you react, if you something, yeah, he's that kind of person. Again, like people who did nothing get reported. People who did something, they get reported. But in a personal level, for me, one of the things that helped us to survive was our faith. Because when someone control every aspect of your life, I remember one of the interrogators, he invited me to he called me to the interrogation room. He said, your file on the desk of George W. Bush, you're not leaving, you will die here. As young, I was so young, like I'm not that sophisticated. I said, I guess give him a simple example. I said, do you think if you're President George W. Bush, if he got diarrhea, would he control his asshole? He said, no. I said, okay, he has no control. My faith sit in my God, in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I said that, he pissed off, basically. So basically it was also the guard interrogators tried to use our faith and our religion against us. And sometimes they would test you. They would bring a females, and she would try to, if you don't look, that means you're extremist. Or because also we come from a mostly conservative families, like a tribal, we have, when we took the women, not just, just look at the floor, it's the way it is. So if you do look at her, that means you are a terrorist. And you get this kind of the notion and idea. But also they want to break you. So sometimes they would put porn magazines on the photos on the floor, on the wall. Sometimes they would play porn movies, and they like force you to watch. And sometimes they would also play gays porn, wherever they like. That like they think that will break you. So what they did, they make you more committed to your religion. Because when someone puts you in a box, solitary confinement, imagine you live 24 hours. Literally, it's a metal box. You have nothing. They can either dark or bright light, temperature either cold or hot. And sometimes when we find something, there is like tranquility in our heart. We stick to our religion, reading the Holy Quran, praying, fasting. Imagine the food was little, yet we fast. And I like said, God, how would you survive? You know, I wouldn't survive for 5 minutes, literally. Even now, I ask myself how I didn't try turn crazy. But for me, when I tell people, it wasn't. There was something, you know, honestly. So there was something like keep us in that place, but also faith. But also we had each other. Try to defend us or fight for each other. And you know, one of the things, the beautiful lesson I learned at Guantanamo, I went through stages. I went through fear, anger, hate, grudge, and you have to go through them. It is a way in those places in prison. You, no matter what, you have to go through them. But it's up to you to imprison yourself at any stage, at any emotion. So when I experience it all, then when I get, there was light at the end of the tunnel. I get out of it. So people ask me like, "Do you?" I said, I don't hate them. If you say George W. Bush, what do you say to him? I said nothing. You know, just he lost his humanity. I pity him, literally, and I still believe in people's, people God. They have God in their hearts, you know. But it's one of the things that I learned at Guantanamo, just to clear your heart. And I feel peace inside my heart. I feel, I have no grudge or hurt against anyone, and smile, happy. So that's one of the beautiful lessons I learned at Guantanamo. So when we live with each other, you feel your faith become under attack, people react collectively, because that would bring people, all Muslims, and those target your faith, like, okay, that's what unites you. So we were, okay, this is, you need to stop that. It was hard, if it's accidentally, it's something, happens sometimes, guards did it unintentional, and we understand, it's human being. But when it was done intentionally, when it was done, we have to show them that we react. We didn't accept that. And it was a way of, you feel the way they tame you, the way they want to control you. So it was also in some way, in some way. In 2010, when we moved to the communal living, imagine from 2002, we became part of each other's life. Now we start, our brain, start constructing a new memories, a new emotion, a new relationship, a new knowledge, but everything related to Guantanamo. So they used to also move us around a lot, camps, blocks and camps. So when we moved in the communal living in 2010, we start talking about the shared life we have, but everything related to Guantanamo. Oh, I remember that person at that block, at that camp. I remember that person, the hunger strike, and the first in the. So when we met, we start going deeper and deeper in our imprisonment, reliving those moments. But at the same time, this what even now when I talk to, we have like 3 WhatsApp groups, former Guantanamo detainees. Like, do you remember that brother in that block? Because Guantanamo become part of our life, and become part of, shape our mindset, our, way of thinking, shaped our behavior to some extent. Yeah.
When Obama signed that executive order that you mentioned before, you had every right to hate your captors, to hate people. But when I read this part of the book, I said, well, this is proof that everyone was wrong about these people, including Mansoor Adayfi. And you shortly met with a lawyer named Andy Hart.
Oh, yeah.
And according to your experience, Andy Hart was deathly afraid of you because they told him that you were some dangerous, deadliest prisoner in Guantanamo. And instead, he was in shock and in awe to meet you. And you were approximately, I think, 110 pounds at that point. Can you talk more about your meeting with Andy Hart?
Oh yeah. In 2009, they appointed a lawyer for me because I didn't have a lawyer before that. So I get a letter like, hey, I am that person. I am your federal lawyer. I would like to meet. I will be that day in appointment. So I asked my friend Fawzi Al-Kuwaiti. I said, hey, because Kuwaitis have lawyers. I said, suddenly I have a lawyer. Why? I never asked a lawyer for a long time. I tried before that lawyer said no. I said, Mansoor, you know what? Go. You're not losing nothing. I said, but why? Like, because I was in hunger strike and so on. And I like, why now? I mean, why? Just after 7 years yes, 8 years. Then the guard said, hey, you have a reservation. I was in 5 Echo, solitary confinement. Because I was on force feeding. So when I was on force feeding, we were in punishment. It's okay. They took me to Camp 5, like a meeting room. I sat on they chained me to the floor and chained my hand to the table. So I want to meet this person. I want just to thank him. And I said, like, I don't want a lawyer, basically. So then when I was waiting, I saw a guy, because the door has like a small window. And I was looking, and there's someone there who was talking to the guards, looking at the window, opening the door, looking at me. And he said, sir, are you 441? I said, yes. And I'm like, are you sure? And when they came in, and I said, are you the lawyers? Like, I stood up and shake hands with them, like, hey, welcome. And the hand was like shaking. And at that time, like, I didn't know what's going on. It just, then, hey, I am Andy, this is the interpreter, and this Amy. Hi, Amy. I said, okay, welcome. I said, you didn't have a lawyer before. I am your lawyer. He was so nervous, like sweating, talking, like, I'm like, okay, relax. And I told him, why now? I mean, first of all, I go, thank you so much. I thank him. I was like, talking like I'm talking to you now. Like, I wasn't trying to be like, whatever, just like, yeah, first of all, thank you for coming and welcome. But why now? I mean, he said, now Obama came, Democrats, they make sure everyone has a bigger representation. And I said, but how can you help? I mean, like, because I told them people here, the lawyer hasn't got anyone released. And I told them, if you convince me, and we start like have this kind of discussion. I told them, if you convince me that you will help, I have no problem. And he was looking at me. They were looking at each other. Like, the more I talk, he's like, are you 441? Are you like? I said, yeah. Why? He said, well, I was expecting that. And later on, he told me, the guard told him, this guy, he's a detainee leader, he's an investigator, he's very dangerous, like, be careful, guys, he might like try to kill you, blah, blah, blah. He said, when I come to the room, I saw a tiny guy. And when he came, he's like, welcome, thank you so much. Even before they left, I said, hey, look, if I say something or there's something that wrong, I'm sorry. Just, we have been here. And Andy almost cried, because he was a very nice guy. And I told him, if you come, I might meet you, but another lawyer, just someone to chat with you. I liked him from the beginning because he was very nice. And the first time I met a civilian guy, basically, who's not interrogator. So then the second time they came and we talked and we became friends. We became best friends. Sometime I would tell him, hey, Andy, look, like, we become friends. I said, look, I'm going to ask the guard to turn me to the bad person. So he said, no, he can't be that person. So yeah, it was amazing. It was one of the hardest moments when he died. Yeah, just, I remember that day I had, like, they told me he had a phone call, and his friend Carlos, he told me, I have bad news for you. I said, what? He said, your friend died. Like, what? I just, I dropped, I started crying. Like I couldn't. So the guards, I was crying all because I didn't care. Honestly, like I just get out. And one of the guards, hey man, like he tried to be like, hey, what's going on there? And the female guard told me like, are you trying to sympathize with him? I said, I do not give a shit about your sympathy. Like I didn't need it. It just, I didn't care about it. Like she was like, she hurt me because when she's like, I tried to sympathize with him, you know. Anyway, it gets one of the hardest moments. And that woman came in the wrong time. I said, like, I cry because my friend, Americans, died. That why I cry. He's not a detainee. He's not a Muslim. He's not a Yemeni. He's not a family. He's just my friend. He's an American too. Just let you know. So, yeah, and I'm still in touch with his family.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful family, yeah. And he was, an amazing human being and soul, and so Andy Hart was. We had, we spent time together. Like I used to write to him letters, part of the book, stories, and so on. We never talk about the case work. We just talk about our families, about life. And he sent me books, dictionaries, CDs, and he helped me to enroll one of the universities in the United States. I was accepted, but the government did not. They said, no, he cannot. He can't enroll to study.
Richard, do you have any final questions for him?
Well, I'd like to know what Mansoor is doing now, particularly with his activities cycling race. But maybe just prior to that, I know you've ended up in Serbia, so rather tragically, you're not able to go home to Yemen because the US are fighting a proxy war via Saudi Arabia there, which is obviously another massive blow. So maybe you could describe how you ended up in Serbia and what life is like for you there. And then finally, we'll come on to, I know you're involved in a kind of cycling marathon to do with the remaining detainees. So could you describe that, please? So could you describe that, please?
The bizarre of this story, the ironic of the story, I was sold to the Americans. They dragged me to Guantanamo for around 15 years. When they came to release me, they forcibly released me to Serbia. They said, you have no choice. You will read it in this might be behind me, stickers here, concealed stickers. This is Life After Guantanamo book. I'm working on the new book called Life After Guantanamo. And soon, Amazon is going to publish audiobook, Letters from Guantanamo. So since I got out, alhamdulillah, it was really hard and difficult because when Trump was elected, many countries they felt they weren't obliged to do anything. I went in hunger strike here twice, the first time for 48 days, the second time 25 days. I was arrested a few times, interrogated, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't give up, alhamdulillah. I managed to finish my bachelor degree. My thesis was about rehabilitation and reintegration of former Guantanamo detainees into social life. And we published the book in 2020, Don't Forget Us Here. Even the story of the book, I will show you here. This is the manuscript I wrote in Guantanamo. This is the original, it's in English. Can you see it?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and these are the stamps. You can see he also authorized by his stamps here. And
yes.
So this is the part of the original draft of the book, Don't Forget Us Here. And the name, the last night I spent with my brothers in Camp 5, their last word was, don't forget us here. I said, no, I won't. So this is how the book starts and how I end it here. Don't forget us here. And also this is my, graduation thesis, rehabilitation and reintegration of Guantanamo detainees. So also last year I went on, since I got out, I have been campaigning, writing, doing interviews. And based on my thesis, we established a program called Guantanamo Survivors Fund. And I hope people can donate to this program because, there is no any kind of rehabilitation or reintegration program. And many people struggle. No healthcare, no jobs, no support. Some of them end up homeless. Some of them end up like dying because there is no healthcare and so on. So we started the program along with some NGOs in the United States and Guantanamo lawyers, and tried to raise some fund and help those like in emergencies. And last year I went on a bike ride, for 400 kilometers, right, to close Guantanamo. This was a campaign. And this year, inshallah, I'm preparing to go on a marathon for around like 46 mile, again, to close Guantanamo. It's campaign 2023. So since I got out, I have been doing all this activism. I work for CAGE as Guantanamo Project Coordinator. I work for Guantanamo Survivors Fund Outreach Director. I am part of Guantanamo Coalition to Close Guantanamo, part of Witness Against Torture. I am part of UK Networks to Close Guantanamo. And yeah, so I have taken, kind of oath to fight for the closure of Guantanamo and justice for Guantanamo, which is, when we say justice for Guantanamo, it means acknowledgement, apology, reparation, and accountability. And in September, this year, I will finish my master's degree, and my thesis is about closing Guantanamo. In September, we have a meeting in Brussels in the EU Parliament, again, to talk about the closure of Guantanamo. So, yeah, if you see my room, it's like Guantanamo Lab. Writing, I also work on a new book, Life After Guantanamo, and we are developing a TV show also about Guantanamo. So this small project. Yeah, and this is why I'm talking to you now.
My final question for you, Mansoor, is that the first thoughts of you by everyone at Guantanamo was that you were Adel, an Egyptian general. You headed the old 55 Arab Brigade under orders of Osama bin Laden. You were tortured. You were debased. You were mentally put through so much anguish to the near point of death by camp guards, by administrators, and by camp directors. What are your final thoughts on these people?
I have made peace with Guantanamo, and I'm trying to channel Guantanamo in a positive way in my life to bring awareness to these people. My thought about these, they're humans, and humans made mistakes. And I wish, that those people can acknowledge what happened. Guantanamo is not about me or about Muslim prison, about us all. Because if you look, Guantanamo becomes a symbol of torture, injustice, lawlessness. Even now, tyrants who target minorities or target opposition, they have the same setup like Guantanamo. Detaining people, torturing them, link them to some kind of terrorism and so on. And when it comes from the United States, a country that preaches democracy, human rights, and equality, it can give them some kind of encouragement. It gives some kind of assurance. You can have your own Guantanamo. If American government can have that place, why not us? So Guantanamo is about us all. It's not about me. It's about us, about our humanity as humans. As for those people who abuse us and torture us, I believe they are also victims of the system. And as I told you, we were not just the victim. There were also guards, camp staff who were also victims of Guantanamo. But those who actually, did the torture and so on, I pray for their guidance. May Allah put some guidance in their heart, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them to the right path. I have no hate or grudge against them whatsoever. On the contrary, I really pity them, because being a human, being sympathizing to others, it is a beautiful aspect of our life, our existence, of who we are.
Mansoor Adayfi, serial number 441, author of Don't Forget Us Here, human rights activist, brother, of the human race. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much to Richard and to our dear listeners.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mansoor. Been an honor.